I am Kate, Prophet with the Planets. You've probably seen me a little bit on social media. I don't make too many videos, but I really wanted to make a video of the astrology of 2022. I have done this on purpose as a paid thing because I think it really needs to be taken quite seriously, and I think it's really important that this information isn't just run with and taken the wrong way. So I think people that are really interested in financial astrology, you can really take this information and do some stuff with it. The reason I've made it is because over the last 7 days, things are starting to add up and in a big way. And what's starting to happen for me every single day, a new piece of the puzzle is coming in and adding to the story I think is building. So I really want to show you the pieces of the puzzle I've been putting together. And actually why I'm actually probably a little bit worried about these, particularly the eclipses that are coming in May, but just the astrology of next year. And I'm not here to do all the astrology, I'm not here to tell everything. There's just this certain pocket of time that is starting to worry me quite a bit. Now we know the markets are at crazy tops. We've got this crazy optimism. We've got the fight with even the ECB have come out, the EU, and they're starting to think that crypto is getting too powerful. NFTs are starting to get pirated, where people have spent hundreds of thousands and all of a sudden they're available for free. The markets are too toppy, and we have some pretty crazy eclipses in. So it's really time to start. We need 6 months to prepare. I am a specialist with eclipses and financial astrology. Not a specialist, but that's where I put on my focus. It's very hard to find this information online on eclipses. My journey over the last 10 years has really been trying, because I could never find, I had to teach myself everything with these eclipses. And as teachers, there's a point where I've really wanted to make this available information, because it just is really hard to find. So what I want to do is start with a really important chart that I have come up with. I'm going to start with two. First of all, I'm going to start with this lunar eclipse. I pointed this out on social media, and honestly I didn't catch it until this week, and it's put the whole puzzle together. Saturn squaring the eclipse tightly by 1 degree. Now this is coming in May, and I've been really looking at this eclipse this week going, okay, what's this about? Now I've picked up the square. So I want to start with showing you a chart. Bear with me. This is a chart of some notes that I've kept in my computer for about 7 years. I have just started working with midpoints. It's been something I want to do for a long time. I feel like it's sort of the last piece of the puzzle for me to put together with a lot of stuff. I recommend doing Olga Morales' Astrogan trading course. I just took one course and it's been fantastic. A little lesson that she did, and it's just put everything together. But anyway, I've got this notes, and it was taught, and I've kept it for a long time. This is why I've really been wanting to study this stuff. So my notes say, and I apologize, I cannot find the author. I've put the text in Google. It's not coming up because I've had this for 7 years. The most important midpoint combination I've had to date is Uranus equals Saturn Pluto. I'm going to put myself off here. What that means is Uranus in the middle equals the midpoint between Saturn and Pluto, which you can see on the chart. Now that was exact in 1776, 1852, 1929 and 1997. This was exact on April 14, 1997, and a significant market low. Look, so I have run this, and I've actually moved it forward a little bit by 4 days, because what I actually put up when I moved it forward is that I could add in Jupiter and Neptune here. Now we are coming into the Jupiter-Neptune astrology in April 2022. We are going to have Jupiter conjunct Neptune at 23 and 24 degrees Pisces. So naturally, I actually sort of put this Jupiter Neptune last. The first thing I was like, right, when are we going to see this astrology between Pluto, it's not going to light up, Saturn, and Uranus down here? So I had a bit of a play around, and what I came up with was, just quickly bring it up, bear with me. Lo and behold, this is a chart of April 30, 2022. What we have is this Jupiter-Venus conjunction here, and we've also just had this Jupiter-Neptune. So because what I'm looking at here with the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction is, are we going to peek into that crash after. I'm not saying crash, but you know, is there something involved? Because we're also currently replicating the dot-com bubble astrology. Now, dot-com involved Jupiter, Neptune, Saturn, and Uranus. We have the Saturn-Uranus square, Jupiter-Neptune coming. It starts in December with the with the Uranus-Saturn square, and then we sort of culminate in this sort of April, you know, point with these two as well. So I've been looking at as much astrology as I can, trying to work out a game plan and which bit, you know, what's going to happen. And what did I find? But we are recreating this Saturn Pluto. Now Uranus is not so much in the middle, but what this is the eclipse in 10 degrees Taurus that is conjunct Uranus. And look at this. Here again, I found Jupiter, Neptune, Saturn, Pluto, and the eclipse and Uranus. So, you know, this is what we want to do. Here comes this midpoint combination again. Now, Uranus is not directly in the middle, but Saturn, Pluto equals Uranus eclipse. We absolutely have to pay attention. Now, when I was bringing these charts out, there's one little crazy thing I found. Pluto was at 5 degrees Sagittarius. What is the eclipse coming in December? 5 degrees Sagittarius. Like, I literally only found this that minute. This is kind of freaky. I don't know whether it's just going to be one of those weird coincidences, but oh, sorry, we had five Sagittarius. We're going 12, so that's all right. That's probably not going to be so bad, but we've certainly had that placement of the eclipse back in May. So look, I don't know if this connects or not, but we just have to know that that was there, because all eclipses connect together. That's it there. That was a lunar eclipse there, you know. It's just interesting, but more to the point, what we have is this really, really important setup of, I want to show you one more time here, Saturn, Pluto, Uranus, Jupiter, Neptune. So, you know, this is kind of getting into something, but the thing is, what's happening for me is this date is coming up over and over and over and over again, because we've got these eclipses coming. Now, I am an astrologer that works a lot with eclipses. I'll show you the chart of the eclipse just so you can see it. So this is it here, and you know, I had to move it by a little bit, but what it is it's conjunct Uranus here. Now this is going to hit a lot of charts. It's also going to hit charts with this 27 degree Jupiter Venus placement. So it's not to say, and we've even got Pluto at 1 degree away from that. So a lot of IPO charts are going to get picked up by this. There could be a lot of really great stuff in it. You know, Uranus is the wild card. It's either going to be really good or really bad. I'll come back later and show you how that's going to work on some charts. But the fact Uranus is here, we actually could see a lot of shocks and a lot of surprise, maybe good and bad. So it's very important when a planet is tagging along with the eclipse, we bring in the energy of that planet as well. We've seen Jupiter, we've seen Pluto, we've seen Mercury, but now we're getting into the meatier stuff. Well, Pluto's very meaty too, and so is Jupiter. But then what's also we've got around that eclipse is this one that this week, and what's just my way I've kind of decided to make this and what I've just shown on social media, this eclipse is 25 degrees Scorpio. Now Scorpio energy is pretty intense. Now the Taurus energies are all about money too, and for the stock market, that's obviously super, super important. We're coming into the new sets of eclipses. So what we've got is this eclipse at 25 degrees Pisces squaring Saturn at 24. You can see these really intense T-squares if you know astrology setting up. So there's two things going on here. I really want to point out this little combination here, and I really want you to think of that Jupiter-Neptune conjunction. You know, this is the eclipse. If looking at it down here, it's just, and it's, you know, it's a little intense, you know, look at the squares there, you can see it. But what I want to show you here is just something that I found out that has come to my attention, which is all coming in the puzzle. Now I shared this information by Louise McWhirter. I think she was GAN as a female in the stock exchange. I'm not commenting in financial astrology. I'm not commenting. But what I noticed was this little degree down here. McWhirter maintained one should pay attention when planets move to 14 Cancer, 24 Pisces on the NYSE chart. And you can see the chart was in Pisces and Aries, which is ruled by Neptune and Mars respectively. Now, it's not the new NYSE chart that I just showed you, but we are certainly bringing up this placement. And again, this is going to be just to show you the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction, because it's really, really important. This is sort of where I started playing around with all this astrology. Here we are at 24 degrees, Pisces. So there's this important part here. Now, if I was to open the NYSE chart, you're probably not going to really sort of see it in the way it's been described, because it's a rectified chart here. But what's really interesting, look at this Jupiter-Neptune 24. There's something going on here. We can see Saturn is also conjunct Pluto. Now, this is the NYSE in itself. We have just had this lunar eclipse over the sun at 27 Taurus. This will actually get eclipsed by the other eclipse, but look at this really big placement here. It is a rectified chart. We're coming into this really strong Uranus square Uranus at 1 degree, Pluto square Neptune. So even looking at that sort of Neptune planet, which is important, here's Pluto coming to square it. The natal planets she's saying to look at are Mars and Neptune, but look at that, so we've really got to start thinking. Now, this is the minor part of all the astrology here. I really want to show you some other stuff with this eclipse that I've sort of just realized is having this terrible square to Saturn, and just some of the jigsaw that's coming to, sorry, I won't put that there, that is starting to come together. So bear in mind, as I've started, we are recreating this astrology where these giant dips in the market have come in 1776, 1852, 1929, and 1997. Now, this one in 1997, the Fed came in and sort of saved the day, or it would have been a 1929 style crash. Is the Fed come in and save the day, or is it, think about it, 1929, recreating the astrology. So this is like really, really, really important to start showing you. So now what we've got to do is look at the astrology in general, which I've just shown you going on, which, recreating, but as I guess someone that works with IPOs and stuff, what chart is it starting to hit? So what I want to do, and the first thing I've been playing on, because I think it's something that's really important with the, just with the, where's all the money at the moment, is, the first thing I did was start looking at Bitcoin. Now, I'm using the 9th of Jan chart. I just prefer it. It's me. Because we're using a lot of outer planets, it's not going to be too bad. But just so why I like this, we had an eclipse at 19 degrees Gemini. And what that eclipse did is it really sent down the price of Bitcoin. So I just want to show you when you start playing around with... First of all, what I want to do, just want to show you, I really like this midpoint here. Now, I've written a book, with some Bitcoin transits, and Mars creates tops and bottoms in the chart. Look at Mars. I have seen someone, look, I won't say, there are some other midpoints used, but for me, this is the one. Uranus rules crypto, Jupiter rules expansion, Mars in the middle. So this is a bit of a no-brainer midpoint that, it's just me. I've come up with this. I'm not saying this is the one to use, but, this brings a lot of confluence here because, Uranus rules crypto. When we look at that eclipse, look at that coming over there, right on. So we know that we have to be using Uranus because we knew that Bitcoin reacted really, really heavily, and obviously it squared it. Now, because it squared it at degree, we've also got to use degree. So we've got the Sun at 19, Uranus 19, and Saturn here at 21. So we know all these points pick up really, really well in the chart. So what I want to do is show you with this eclipse coming. Now, when we look at the eclipse, when it is at 25 Scorpio, there's not really any planets that are picked up. Look, there's the moon here at 29, but, we don't even know that for sure because it's time. We'll stick with the outer planets. Look here, the sun, I've just nominated it. But we know these planets around Bitcoin when it was created was certainly around these degrees. Jupiter will move a bit, but these slower ones will absolutely stay at 19 and 21 degrees. So when we look at the aspects, we can think, okay, look, it's square Neptune. That's probably not great unto itself. It's trining Uranus, you know, what's going on. I really want to point out Jupiter square Pluto. Now, that is not a great transit in IPO astrology. We also know that Mars moves some stuff, and Venus, absolutely, when you back test it, but this is a monster transit. We don't have enough data to really, you know, be sure, but the chart certainly works at certain points. Let's look at that eclipse, and what do we have here? The eclipse square Saturn is falling right at one of the most sensitive points on the Bitcoin chart. Now, looking at Bitcoin currently, I'm not here to provide financial advice, but what's happened is that every time Jupiter has moved over this spot, now I know a lot of Bitcoin people tend to know exactly the days when this went up and down. When we moved Jupiter here, 6th of September 2021, there was a really heavy, it came up, made a high, fell quite dramatically after. The date before that, if you just want to back test this really manually looking at a chart, is that the next day that this happened before was 10th of April 2021. Within 3 days, I want to point out, there has been another high, and then the price has fallen away quite fairly dramatically, or just, you know, enough that you wouldn't want to be in it. And here it comes again. So, you know, we're going to come up to this really big date of 28th of November 2021. I will point out, I played around with some interesting software online at midpoints, and it turns out the node at 1 degree is a really big trigger. It's not coming again until about 2035. Just this particular, you know, set of astrology is quite unusual, and this could absolutely trigger this here. So really, it's just a big point that came up with I've just been playing around trying to find some new stuff. It's always fun. We you know, done IPOs for 12 years, so I just, you know, enjoy it, I guess. But, you know, so watch what Jupiter does here again, because, you know, if the eclipse is coming right on this point, look at this. Whoa, sorry. Jupiter, Pluto, Pluto, Jupiter. What is going on here with the eclipse and Saturn here? I will be very surprised if we don't see something to do with this eclipse on Bitcoin. Now, I'm going to use both charts because I know people like to use the 3rd of January chart. Nothing wrong with that. Use whatever you like. It's just my personal preference. Now, that actually puts, sorry, I've used the wrong chart here. I'll quickly move that. Around that eclipse, what that means is that Pluto is conjunct Jupiter. Now, generally, we don't have enough information, but in my own life, someone has passed away, and it's just, I'm not even to say Bitcoin's gone, but what is going on here? I've been wondering for over a year to 2 years about this transit. I sort of wrote it off because when we had something conjunct Jupiter, it didn't do much. And I thought, oh, look, maybe it's not that big a deal. But look at this coming over. Even you've had Saturn over Neptune before, but, you know, this is a really big thing that's starting to really come in with this astrology. Now, I would probably use the same here. Obviously, Jupiter Uranus makes the most sense probably than some of the other combinations, but, you know, here again, we're talking within a day, here comes this Saturn eclipse. Now, depending what chart you're going to use, you're going to have a few little days difference, but what's coming along is even just Saturn by itself is coming along. So watch that point on the chart, because here comes Saturn 2nd of May 2022. If you use the other chart, me using my chart, I should say, I call it the Bitcoin Satoshi chart, the date that he brought out the email, we're only talking like one, if not the same day, maybe one day, 3rd of May 2022. So it's very possible we might see some, hang on, I've got to fine tune that a bit. Let me go back a bit. We're coming into, yeah, it's very important, because obviously we're looking for days. This is like the stuff that we do. Okay, what day is something going to happen? We're coming in around, let me go back a little bit. Coming in exact, come on. And Saturn's really hovering around here as well. Sorry, I can't seem to get it exact. There we go. About here. So somewhere sort of around this late May. You know, so late May, you've just got Saturn, but more importantly, more importantly, what you have is this. So May it's time to maybe start thinking. Now, I don't understand for me with Bitcoin, it's purely like, you know, teaching, educational. Why I look at this stuff, I'm not in it, I'm not invested in it, but I'm able to look at this really neutrally and just present the astrology that I'm seeing, because I'm sort of don't have a financial or emotional attachment to Bitcoin. So we have double Jupiter Pluto eclipse conjunct Saturn over a point that Bitcoin has made highs with a Pluto Jupiter here. You know, I don't know, I'd be very surprised if we do see something, but as I said, I'm not a Bitcoin astrologer. I don't understand it. Is there a halving? Is there something? Please start, you know, paying attention to the fact that they're talking about regulation. Yesterday I saw someone say, oh, Bitcoin is getting too dangerous, it threatens currencies. It's time to start taking this stuff into account, because there is some big astrology coming, and you know, you do see some of these guys starting to play with financial astrology, which is fantastic, but not knowing how to do this sort of side of it and saying, oh, I don't think the bull runs over. You know, we've got to look at all the different ways to do astrology. Now, one good thing, I guess, maybe positive, I don't know, but just want to point out that Jupiter is coming along in March to Uranus. Jupiter expands what it touches. It's not to say that, you know, it's going up here. I don't know. I'm not going to give any advice on that, but we would think that's maybe a good transit. Now, price can often fall away quite a lot after, and Pluto hasn't really come along yet. What Pluto is going to do is it is going to station. It's going to start stationing in May 2022 over this Jupiter. Now, if you use the 3rd of January chart, again, we don't know how much we can rely on these charts, but we know that these planets were at these degrees roughly when Bitcoin was incepted. So look at this. There's this sort of big astrology coming up over here. So it's kind of time to start looking at this, I think, and thinking, okay, what's the story? What's going on? Because astrology has certainly, like June, as I said before, the June eclipse absolutely hammered, you know, Bitcoin, and it actually dropped in half. Here it is squaring Saturn Uranus. So we know these planets are really, really important. You know, so what's the story on this other point down here? There's certainly one coming. Now then what we, of course, we want to do, I'm not just here to talk about Bitcoin, but just bear in mind that there was that, you know, and it didn't even have the transits that it's got coming up with this Pluto square Jupiter, you know, Jupiter square Pluto, it's power. You know, Jupiter's coming along and squaring it. So it's just something to really think about. But I want to show you some other charts that are starting to come up with this lunar eclipse. And there's a lot. And this is why I sort of made this, because each time I'm looking at something, I'm like, oh my God, what is coming up? Joe Biden, the eclipse squaring Saturn is falling on his sun. Now, you know, there's a big story here. In some ways, sometimes eclipses on our sun give us power, but obviously the Saturn is coming in squaring it. We've obviously seen the news. We knew, like, you know, every astrologer's picked up that Joe Biden's, you know, it's nothing really, you know, groundbreaking. His Jupiter's at 25 degrees here, so I'm certainly not saying that's bearish, but bear in mind it's falling on his sun squaring Saturn. The Queen, I think I showed this on social media the other day. She is getting eclipsed as well. Here we go. This one is falling on her Saturn squaring Saturn. This is the nasty one. Let's look at the USA, because the USA and the US dollar share all the same placements. We just move them around a little bit. So, you know, what is the story? Because eclipses tell stories. What is starting to come up here? So bear with me. I'll just pause it if I can't find the USA chart. Here we go. USA. You know, this is our chart here. Now, what's going to happen around this eclipse? Pluto conjunct Pluto. Yeah. Saturn's conjunct the moon. I mean, this is just the big one in itself. And not only is Pluto conjunct Pluto, it's stationing on Pluto. Now, the biggest meteor's part of the financial astrology is when Pluto is making the station. It's going, you know, sort of grinding over it, I guess you would put it. Even looking at the eclipse, there's actually an eclipse coming now that's coming on the ascendant. Now we're starting a new chapter of eclipses, but it doesn't matter if it's in different signs. It's 2 degrees away from Saturn here, 1 degree away from the sun. you know, it's certainly okay. It's semi-squaring the sun. It's opposite Uranus. It's, you know, we've got to look at the degrees. The sun is going to get picked up here. Pluto is not there yet. But certainly by the time we come around to this eclipse, Pluto is not only there, it's going back. And, you know, the grind, the station is going on. So let's look at the USA chart the other way. Let's look at the transits as well. So we have, you know, it's not, when we look at it this way, it doesn't look too shocking, you know. But what I want to do, I like to use Jupiter. So I make my own midpoints up here because it's just the way I like to do things on my own. I always use Jupiter, Pluto, Sun if I can put them together in anything, because that's one of the strongest combinations in financial astrology. I'm not here to say to do that. I don't know. And I'm sure you can play around with Saturn, Pluto and stuff as well. We might do it on the fly just to sort of see what happens here. But so let's put that eclipse up. Okay, look at that. Here is the eclipse again. If we even fine-tuned it, it's actually going to be Jupiter, Saturn, but Jupiter, Sun, Pluto, literally at degree, here is Saturn and the eclipse right on this important point, Pluto, Pluto. Look at that even. So going back to that Ann Whitaker, the critical degrees of this sort of, you know, 24 Pisces here in the USA chart is replicated. What on earth is going on here? This is just crazy. So this, you know, as I said before, this week has turned into this weird jigsaw puzzle where I'm trying to work out what on earth is going on next year. It is time to start getting prepared in all ways. I'm not saying what's going to happen, but this is why we do financial astrology, so we're never caught off guard. Have the conversations on social media between other astrologers. I don't even know myself, but come on, let's look at that. What on earth is going on here? This is massive. Now that also means that it is going to come over the US dollar, because the US dollar shares the same placements as the US. Bam, Pluto, Pluto, you know. So then I wanted to look at the gold chart. I'm doing a little bit of this on the fly, by the way. I'll go back to the USA chart and the Saturn, Pluto. Here it comes again. There's that little Jupiter Neptune, interestingly, you know, so I want to pay attention to that conjunction, by the way. You know, there's the gold chart even there. Now, sorry, gold, or what I want to do, I would probably want to use Jupiter, Sun, Pluto. Let me just pop that around again a little bit here. Look at that. It's actually falling on the Jupiter. Now, it's not to say the Saturn is going to square everything, because we've also got to pay attention with financial astrology. The eclipse is on this Jupiter Neptune here in the gold chart here. So, and they're not even together this way. It's at, you know, look at that. So this is, you know, that's their Jupiter Sun. So this is really, really interesting. I'm just looking at the degrees here with the eclipse we've got coming quickly. So look at that, even gold, 25 degrees. Now, Neptune obviously is a weird one, but Jupiter, 26 degrees, 26 degrees, 25 degrees. Well, we can allow 1 degree on either side. There's that Saturn kicking around. And the Saturn, it's coming in for a square. It's not there yet. You know, what we also have, though, is what's called heliocentric Mercury into Sagittarius. It's a really big gold transit. Now, let me just quickly pop something on this up here. Looking at the gold chart, it is actually going to have the eclipse in Taurus is actually going to fall on this Mars. Now, we have seen the US dollar with a Mars eclipse come up pretty heavily. This is April 2022. The moon is going to get an eclipse. Now, the sun at 11 degrees is going to get eclipsed as well. It doesn't look anything too exciting here, but you know, well, we can just use degrees and stuff. So I just want to use all different astrology methods in this video. We're even going to have this Jupiter-Venus conjunction. Actually, it's pretty far away from June. But what we'll have is the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction, actually. And remember, the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction is around all this crazy astrology that's going on. So, you know, quickly looking up here, you can see that there. So, you know, here's some more astrology coming here. Now, also looking at the gold chart, I've just put Jupiter-Pluto together here because it's a really good money combination. What we've got coming over is that Jupiter, sorry, is starting to come right to this point of this Jupiter-Pluto here. So, you know, absolutely we might see some stuff. We've even got Neptune coming over there. But more importantly, you know, there's this big eclipse coming over, and I want to also talk about this eclipse coming is this Taurus eclipse, because it's going to hit a lot of charts. Now, it's going to hit anything that that's probably IPO'd in the last, look, I don't know, I say 3 years, it's probably longer. But I want to show you an example of some charts when this comes over, because I feel like, you know, we saw that, you know, looking at this eclipse, we're not, you know, it's so close to all this other astrology I've been showing you. It feels like it's just all going to tie in. Taurus is money. So if I pulled up a chart, I'm going to actually just use Meta as an example, say, because the Facebook thing, it's not out yet, so it's not like me giving any financial advice or anything. But I wanted to show an example of what I mean by when, you know, the eclipse comes over, so you can see what it looks like. So here's an example with that, you know, Uranus coming over. So what we're going to have a Uranus conjunct Uranus, but, you know, they're new IPOs. But we're going to see these eclipses pick up all this stuff. Now, depending when it is, example, Saturn square, look, I don't know. But the point is, all this is going to get done. If I show you a stock of something that's really popular, I don't know, like AMC, I guess, something like that, that's fairly new, you know, we could pretty much assume or guess or be sure that, you know, look at that, 9 degrees Taurus, 10 degrees Taurus. All this stuff is going to get hit by the eclipse. Now, I'm not saying one way or the other. You would need to do all your own. I'm not here to, you know, you've got to look at the degrees in the charts. You've got to look at, you know, what is got the degrees here and what's got the degrees here. There's even Mars at the same degree. So absolutely anything 10, 11 is getting picked up, if not even one more on either side, 9 to 11. 11 degrees, you know, so you just do your own stuff. I'm not going to say, so this eclipse is also going to affect all these assets. Now, if it happens to be squaring some stuff that is at 10 degrees, you know, then you might going to have some problems. It's really, really hard to say. But, you know, so we've got these two massive eclipses. Now, this is the eclipse here. There's nothing really too, you know, bonkers here. But, you know, again, where is the eclipse? Coming into Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter, Neptune, Uranus, Saturn, Pluto. So what is going on with all this astrology? So when we look at Bitcoin, we've looked at the NYC, we've looked at gold, we've looked at the US dollar, we've looked at the US, we've looked at Biden, we've looked at all these IPOs. Every single thing is getting hit. So it's time to start to really use this astrology in the way it's designed, not to get on and just go, oh, Bitcoin, going, you know, this is why it's here. We are the messengers as financial astrologers. What's going on, May? So start thinking, you know, put together, you know, the Pluto hat, you know, what are the cycles of Bitcoin? What are the cycles on the market? We've got the .com bubble we're creating. We've got that astrology 1929 coming back again. We've got an eclipse squaring Saturn. We've got all these charts at sensitive points getting hit. What's going on? So, you know, rather than me giving you a forecast of what's going to happen, I'm talking about the astrology of 2022. I think you could have a lot of, not fun with it because it's not a fun thing, but certainly pull out some charts, pull this eclipse out. What is this eclipse eclipsing? You know, because it's going to start to tell some stories. It's coming across charts of, you know, I think Rio in Australia. I'm talking with another astrologer at the moment, so that'll come out soon. But, you know, it's coming across everything. So it's time to really, and it's Taurus. Taurus is money, Scorpio is not. It's pretty intense energy. So we're going to start really changing the vibe out of this sort of Gemini Saturn series into some much more weighty stuff on the markets. So, you know, good luck putting some stuff with this. I think it's a great learning tool for financial astrology. It's certainly the most astrology I've seen in a really long time together. And of course, don't forget what we're coming into is this Saturn, you know, Uranus Saturn square building. And look, it could even all start here, you know. I don't know, probably none of us, it would almost be impossible to say with all this astrology. Now, I just want to also quickly point out some of the astrology actually gets quite good after in May. So this is a bit of a weird one because look at this Jupiter sextile Sun, Pluto trine Sun. That is coming out the end of May. You know, I am not here to give advice, but is this a dip that is bought after? I don't know, but you know, I just got to really point out that there is positive astrology as well, and this is why I'm not here to give a forecast. I'm here for you to make some decisions. And look at this amazing sextile here between the Sun, Pluto, Jupiter. This is a monster. 20th of May 2022. If you probably want to even put your own chart. If you've got the Sun at 29 Taurus, or even something at 28 Capricorn, you're going to pick up this amazing thing here. So we can really even use personal astrology. So it's almost like going on, I can see this big T-square there with Saturn and the node and the nodes there. But anyway, this is a really big piece of astrology unto itself. So there's probably a bit of a game plan going here. What's going to happen, I don't know, but you know, there'll probably be another piece of the puzzle coming along on this astrology. So this is why it's not a forecast of 2022, but it is absolutely the astrology of 2022. Look at that, Pluto, Jupiter, Sun, two-way. This is, oh no, Pluto, Jupiter, Mars, but this is the big one. Look at that, IPOs, look at these dates, you know. So this is some financial astrology. I hope it helps you in some way. Mostly hope it helps you not lose money in some way, because that is the role I like to take as a financial astrologer, is to stop people losing money. And I'm not saying you're going to lose money on this, but we have we know what's coming, and we know how to plan, prepare, and be ready. So I wish you the best of it. Don't be scared of eclipses. They have a giant purpose. This one looks a little rough, I'm not going to say in May, but its role will be to create experiences that take you where you're meant to go, and you'll just get there faster rather than going around and around in circles. So good luck, happy charting, and don't forget to take the astrology.